Here we are again for Boomer's Banquet on the 14th of September. And today, we're into sports. My name is George. I'm a coach for the Hustle Basketball Training Camp in Pampanga, soon to open. And I teach the mental side of sports. And I guess that qualifies me for this episode where we have really great sporting luminaries. Uh, Almond and Lito, and of course our birthday celebrant, Coach Norman Black, is with us, and it's really a great honor for us to have him here on Boomer's Banquet. Good morning to you, Bob Novales is with me. Bob,
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is a game that's so close to my heart. Practically ruled my whole life, and we're talking about memories we have of that tournament, that thing that we strove for. We wanted to get a hand with, because in my younger days we were only able to catch replays of that very rarely on TV.
Mm.
And then there was also an instance when the NBA was shown only on theaters in the finals.
mhm. Yes,
So
that's right.
that's going to be it was a luxury since the late 1980s when those games were being shown to us more frequently, and we're just happy to share memories with you, and we're just happy to have these guests with us. Good morning, everyone.
Mhm.
Boomers Banquet ito. At yung
And
ating
Teddy
boss, si Teddy
Perenya.
Espereña,
Oh.
nagpahanda sa amin ng pentel pen at saka ng papel.
Oh.
Hindi ko alam kung bakit.
Oy,
Teddy, ikaw na.
hindi na pentel ang tawag ngayon diyan, 'di ba?
Brand yun eh, brand yun.
Sharpies na, Sharpies. Yan ang
Ayun.
uso ngayon, Sharpies.
Anyway,
Yun.
good morning, boomers.
Yan.
Welcome to this morning's NBA edition.
Mhm.
NBA meaning no basketball allowed.
Mhm. Ayun, no? And of course, may medya si Teddy, courtesy of, yun, ano, BioFresh
Very
socks,
fresh.
no?
And
And,
thank you to Roy Ordiales of Design Makati for our shirts.
yun.
Yeah.
Hoy, we're very lucky today because we have three basketball luminaries around.
Iba-ibang fields pa, no?
Oo
Oo,
nga eh.
iba-iba. Kaya ano
Let's,
to, maganda.
ayun. No? So let's start off with a really good, what you might, or really good sports writer. But prior to that, he had another career which he really was good at. Also, he made that particular hotel chain really prominent. I'm talking about Lito Cinco. Lito, good morning to you.
Hoy,
Mm.
may ano siya. Lito, bago ka magsalita. May column si Lito hanggang ngayon sa Manila
Oh, the
Standard.
standard, right?
Yeah.
No?
Every
Mhm.
Thursday, the bottom line.
The bottom line, ayun,
Yeah.
no?
Ginagamit yun na rin dati sa Sports Weekly when I was
Mhm.
writing for that magazine.
Yung Sports Weekly ba yung kay Vic Villafranca ba yun?
No, Vic. Yeah, he came from
Yeah.
Sports World. I also
Yes,
came
that's
from
right.
Sports
Oo.
World. Lumipat ako sa Sports Weekly.
Hmm.
And then, marami pa ako nasulatang magazines at that time. So, si Norman, I won't remember what magazines, but I'm sure I featured Norman a few times.
Mhm. Of
Yes,
course,
that's
no?
right.
Yun ang ano doon eh.
Yeah.
And then we have Almond Cajefe. Almond, he's the one behind the Wilson Sporting Equipment, especially Wilson Balls, which is now the official ball of the NBA. Good morning, Almond.
Good morning everyone. Good morning po, Sir George, Sir Teddy, Coach Norman, Sir Bob, and Sir Lito, and to all the listeners.
Ganda
Welcome,
ng
welcome.
t-shirt mo Ganda
Oo
ng
nga eh.
t-shirt mo.
That's the
Wag
official
ka
lock-up logo of Wilson NBA.
Wag ka
He's the
magpapadala
man
dyan
in
kay Teddy Perenya dahil
He's obviously the
manghihingi
man
lang
in
yan
charge of
mamaya.
the balls, George, no? Kasi
Oo
siya
nga
in
eh.
charge ng bola, kaya siya yung talbog ng talbog on street.
Oo, yun, ano.
He's on the
Pero
road,
ang
by the
cheque
way.
niya, ang cheque niya good hindi tumatalbog ang cheque niya.
Oh, yun, no? Ayos, no? And of course, we have with us, I had a personal encounter with him several years ago when I went to the Shape Gym in Ultra. It just so happened that the San Miguel basketball team was there. And of course, Coach Norman was there too. I think you were still a player at that time. Coach Norman Black, good morning to you and happy birthday.
Magandang umaga. Those were many years ago.
Yeah, Shape, right?
I was still a player.
Yes. I remember you because Samboy, I think, was carrying weights, and you carried Samboy with the weights.
Baliktad, baliktad.
Baliktad. So now what happens? I lost heart. I had to give up shape because I realized, like, I went to one of the machines and I tried to work on the machines, and the trainer told me, "Sir, hindi kayo dyan. Doon kayo sa pambabae."
Buti hindi sinabi doon sa pambata ka.
So that's it. Sayang, libre pa naman yung ano ko doon, no, sa shape. Oh. Anyway, Coach Norman, thank you for joining us, and happy birthday once again. Okay, Bob, kick
Thank
it
you,
off.
thank
You're
you.
the basketball player.
Was. Now, this is odd because we're celebrating 75 years of the NBA and we have Mr. 100% here. So that's numbers way beyond the 75. I'm talking about
Oy,
Norman,
way
of
below.
course, our-
Way below yung age. Way below.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Norman played in the NBA. That's
Yeah, legit.
is something we want to pluck from him. His experience having played
The
in that
Pistons.
gold mine of ours, or we're looking for that pot of gold. I mean, of ours. And well, Norman, could you tell us how it was back then? This was before you moved to the Philippines to play for Teflon, which
Yes.
was around 1980, I think, or 79. Could you tell us about how it was back then?
Yeah, actually it was 1981.
Yeah.
And just to be derecho and solita, I just had a cup of coffee long. I wasn't there a very long time. I was only a year and a half out of college, and I arrived in the Philippines just before my 24th birthday. So I was still quite young when I arrived here in the Philippines.
Oy, naulaan
But-
nyo na kung ilang taon si Norman ngayon kung marunong kayo ng math.
Was that be the reason why you also carried the number 24 all the time?
No, not really. I was 24 when I was in college. That was my number. And that's
St.
the reason why I
Joseph's.
carried it when I got to the pros. My stint with the NBA was really made Delaware. My first year out of college, I made it through the entire exhibition season with the Washington. I think they were the
Bullets?
Bullets then.
Yeah, the Bullets,
That's how old
right.
I am.
Mhm.
Now they're the Wizards. And that means I played in 6 exhibition games. And most of those exhibition games were on the road. We played in Chicago Stadium. We played in the Boston Garden. We played in Madison Square Garden. So most of those games were on the road at that time. So that was actually my first experience with actual NBA games. And then I got cut just before the start of the season, maybe about 2 or 3 days before the start of the season. And that's how I ended up going to the CBA and playing there. The following year, I was with the Detroit Pistons because I got picked up out of the what we call this Continental Basketball Association, which is now the G League in the NBA. It's the minor leagues of the NBA. And I was picked up out of there in the middle of the season. So I had a 10-day contract with the Detroit Pistons. And I think I played in 4 or 5 games in those 10 days. And after the season was over, because this was towards the end of the season, they actually kept my rights during the summer. So I actually attended the summer league with the Detroit Pistons in Los Angeles, California. And that's actually where I met Jimmy Mariano. And he was the one who actually asked me, would I be interested in coming and playing in the Philippines? But my stint in the NBA was, it was very short, but it was very memorable.
Was that the time of the bad boys of the Pistons?
Not yet.
Was that
Well,
during
this
that
was,
time?
No, that was
Isaiah
earlier.
Thomas was recruited. He was drafted. The year that I came to the Philippines was the year that Isaiah was drafted. And Kelly Chapuka, I believe, was the forward that was drafted out of Notre Dame.
Mhm.
But just to answer your question about my stint in the NBA, if there are things that I remember that will always stay in my mind. For instance, in Chicago, you now have the United Center,
Yes, that's right.
right? That's the arena where they play.
Yeah.
Well, when I played there, it was the Chicago Stadium,
Mhm.
and the locker rooms were underground. So you
Okay.
would walk out of the floor to get to the floor to play. You
Mhm.
would go down into the floor to get to the locker rooms. It's very interesting because they don't have that in the NBA anymore. But back in those days, they did. And then I also remember that when I was with the Bullets and we played the Boston Celtics in the Boston Garden,
Oh,
we
the
stayed in
dirt.
the same hotel as the Atlanta Hawks, who were going to play Boston the next day. And I'll never forget this. I remember Connie Hawkins walking in with a mink coat on, with two girls on his arms. He walked in with two girls, one on the left, one on the right, a mink coat, a big mink hat, and he walked in because this was towards the end of September already, so it was getting kind of cool already. And he walked in, and I was like so fascinated, you know.
Must have looked like a pimp.
Towards the end of his career at the time. And
Was music playing at the time?
That stood out in my mind.
You were not
Was music
envious,
playing then,
Norman.
Norman? Yeah, here, this is Tito. Yes.
Norman, you were not envious of Connie.
How
you wish.
Bata, so maybe.
But you could have wanted some Isaac Hayes playing there while you were marching in.
Stepped out of a Cadillac, probably, huh?
Yeah.
But is it true, Norman? Is it true that the Boston fans are the dirtiest in the business? I mean, they'd spit at you and stuff, especially at the old Boston Garden.
I only played one game in the Boston Garden, so I can't really tell you. Maybe Magic Johnson can give you a better idea because he played so many sports there. But yeah, the Boston fans have been known to be tough. Whether they're football fans, whether they're the Bruins fans from the hockey team, or whether they're the
Red Sox
baseball fans or the Red Sox, they do have a reputation for being pretty rough on the opponent.
And I hear
Norman?
they try to control the temperature at the Boston Garden, depending on who's playing.
Well, the rumor was that whenever you played in Boston, it was one or two things were going to happen. If you played in the wintertime...
Oh, no.
Oops.
We lost Norman for a while. Okay. I was supposed to ask him if parts of the parquet floor struck his face or something. Because lumilipad daw yun eh.
Ay, nako.
Ayan na. Getting back.
Okay, you're back.
There you are.
We
Welcome
got
back.
cut off. I was saying that there were two rumors in the Boston Garden. If you played in the wintertime, they were going to turn the temperature down, so it would be ice cold in your locker room. Okay, so
just in your locker
up to the floor. Yeah, but if you played in the springtime, then they would turn the temperature up, so it would be super hot. So those are the rumors that were going around. I can't confirm those. I didn't have a long career in the league, but those are the rumors that were going around.
Yeah, those are the things you have to deal with if there are home and away games, so to speak, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Lito,
Yeah.
how did you get into the sports writing business after being so successful in the hotel business?
Well, actually, writing has always been a sideline for me. I've been working sa management even up to now. I still do management consultancy, but I've been writing for 43 years already. Maybe it's because I am a fan of basketball, and I tried writing. It was accepted. Sports news. I got paid the magnificent amount of 20 pesos. For the
That is
very
magnificent.
Per article.
For the
That
very
is-
first article.
That is obscene.
No, that was
But
already
for me
high.
at the time, I mean, to see your name there. that was
Yeah.
payment
As long
for-
as you have the byline, right?
Yeah.
George, si Lito was paid 20 pesos per article. Ako sa Focus Theater per show, 7 pesos. As
At hindi ikaw yung show.
As
Cashier ka lang.
Oo, asher lang ako.
Ayan.
Mas may effort ako para susulat ako eh. Kaya 20
Oo.
pesos.
Dito
si
sa high
Ted-
school ba
dito.
sa Paco, sports editor ka nun? Ng organ?
Pare,
Sa organ?
I was not a writer at that time. Isa lang naging article ko sa Gazette. I asked my sister to write it.
Ito
Pero
Lito,
may
Mo ba yung nagsulat, ha?
Si Lito kasi pareho
medyo
kami
malupit.
ng high school.
Medyo
Ako
malupit na
Catholic
tanong to,
school.
Lito. Malupit na tanong from me. Anong earliest NBA memory mo? Baka lumampas ka na nung 1946, ha?
Oo.
Kwento mo naman.
Bata ako.
Si George Mikan yata ang ano niya, no?
Naririnig ko na si Hal Greer.
Ah,
That I remember. Black and white pa TV nun. Nakakapanood, nakakarinig ako sa kapitbahay namin. Wala kaming TV nun. I distinctly remember Hal Greer. Naririnig ko yung kanyang What?
nung
Sige.
high school nga kami, sa Lourdes, sa Bob, no? Pag may free time, we'd go to the audiovisual center. Ang pinapalabas, Royals versus Celtics
Cincinnati,
championship.
Boston.
Cincinnati,
Boston.
Yung championship, si ano pa nandun Oscar Robertson, nasa Royals, no? Tapos imagine, finals game. Doon pa lang ikakabit yung ring. Sinusukat talaga na dapat ganitong ang galing yung that was amazing yung yan. Sila Celtics yata nun, sila Bill Russell pa nun
Bob Cousy, Bill Russell,
Bob Cousy,
sila
yes,
Casey
Sam
Jones.
Sam Jones. Oo. Yun.
So early memories talaga to Tsaka may film
Pero
naman yung dinadissect yung
some research sa NBA. Nag-start pala yung Basketball Association of America. 1946. 3 years bago naging NBA. They had 11 teams lang at that time. 46. And I was surprised, Washington, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit were already in the BAA. Tapos yung ibang teams actually nagbago-bago ng pangalan. But it remained to be based in one city. They were just changing names like Buffalo Braves dati. Nag-develop into other names.
Sila yata yung Clippers na ngayon if I'm not mistaken.
Buffalo Braves sa New York kasi yun Oo.
Hindi ko alam kung naisulat ko yan.
The Chicago Zephyrs. Mga ganun pangalan na Tri-Cities Blackhawks.
Si Almond, iniinggit tayo. Kala niya wala akong bola.
Oo Ito, medyo Teddy, tatanong ko si Almond ngayon. Anong earliest NBA memory niya? And don't tell me hindi mo naabutan si Michael Jordan.
Mukhang 17 years old lang to si Almond
Bagets na bagets. Bagets.
Hindi pa.
Sasabihin mo, hindi mo naabutan si Jordan.
Naabutan ko na sila. Kobe Bryant na ako mga ganyan.
Kobe Bryant. Okay,
You know this big guy named Bill O'Neal, kilala mo yun?
Kay Norman. We're talking about the NBA kasi. So, yung bang basic difference between ba't pag tinatanong to, nawawala?
Nawawala.
Parang exam.
Nahihiya.
Naghahanap ng kodigo.
Hindi naman natin siya tinatanong tungkol sa Victoria Court.
As a friend. Ayun,
Kasi maganda pag-usapan niya naging development ng NBA style of play from the time. Norm, can you try and help us by explaining to us, in your own point of view, how did the NBA develop into what it is now? What is the basic or what are the basic difference between now and before? I would know one already. The physical game was kaya may bad boys dun
There was no LeBron.
Can you compare the time that you were playing to the time it is now, as far as the way of playing is concerned?
Well, I have the experience. I'll say experience. So hindi masama. Experience lang of watching Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Jerry West, a lot of the really older players who were the first superstars in the NBA. And then I was able to watch the middle of the pack guys who I feel really turned the league around. And that was the Julius Irvings, the Magic Johnsons, the Larry Birds,
Larry Bird.
And in a way, eventually it's Michael Jordan. In a way, they actually saved the league because the league was mirrored in a lot of controversies for a while with drugs and did not really have a lot of stability as far as the teams were concerned. The ABA was making a transition from their league to the NBA. And then you have today with the LeBron James era, is what I would call it. And of course, Kobe Bryant would be part of that LeBron James era because it's up to.
Oops, wala ulit si Norman.
Yeah, sorry.
Problem.
It's third world internet, so we'll.
Almond.
Natin ulit si Almond. Sige,
Almond.
George.
Kailan mo kami bibigyan bola? Dinerecho na.
Bumili ka.
Si Teddy implied but not stated no? Ikaw stated not implied. Okay, let's go back to Norm.
Yeah, guys.
Norm, yung way of playing itself.
Internet. Yeah, I would say
the way the game was being played before and now.
Well, I thought before the game was much more physical. It was much more orientated towards the defense. And physicality was almost encouraged. And what I mean by that is it was very similar to what just happened to Jokic and Mars the other day.
Oh, yeah, right. The other day, right.
Where, where one guy hit one guy and the other guy retaliated immediately.
And
that's the type of basketball I grew up with. I mean,
yesterday it happened again with the Pacers.
Right? They carried over to the PBA with the no blood, no foul.
Yeah.
No
harm. It's an unwritten rule when I was in the PBA when I first arrived here.
And I have it. And somebody has to give you a tribute, Norman. Norman, somebody has to give you a. Norman, somebody has to give a tribute to you for that, your resilience. Because I think everybody threw everything at you, including the kitchen sink, and yet you remain the asset, cool. The gentleman,
not always,
the
not
kind
always.
of player that didn't look like it. It looked so well.
Norm, share with them the only time that you got mad and you did something.
Ang kwento? Isang beses lang, galit talaga ako. I think it was San Miguel versus kalaban ng Tanway. And ang kalaban ko, individual kalaban, si Padima Israel. Remember Padima Israel?
Yeah.
Magaling defender. Magaling defensive player. He was one of the toughest guys in the league for me to go up against. And so, Champray, no blood, no foul. Physical talagang laro, diba? Physical talaga. And I get the ball on the baseline. I up fake Padim. He goes for the up fake. And we had this thing that when a guy went up for an up fake, as he's coming down, you go up.
Yeah.
So you automatically get the foul. The problem is my elbow hits Padim sa muka and bloodies his lip. So now he's bloody. Everybody's looking at me like, oh, masama, you hit him wrong. So he has to go out of the game because his lip is really bleeding. And in comes Victor Rambo Sanchez.
Sanchez.
You guys remember
Victor Sanchez?
The enforcer.
The game. And on the very first play, we're on the foul line together. And Sama see Victor, right to my left. He's on my left. We're on the foul line together. The foul shot is shot. May tira na. And instead of going for the ball, Victor just elbows me. Sasiko sa mukako.
No, cheap
and
shot.
I swear, I thought my face was broke. Sira muka. And I just got so mad. So I started chasing him down the court. I'm cursing at him. I'm chasing him. The referees are running at us, trying to separate us. But we don't hit each other. So the referees can't call anything, right?
Kabulan lang eh.
What does
No
Victor
blood,
do?
no foul.
Yeah, that's right. Victor comes and sets a screen on me, of all things to do. He comes and sets a screen on me, and I just tried to run right through him. I tried to,
knock him off.
his head off.
Sagasa.
So the referees ended up calling a technical on me for doing that. And that was just a bad play for me. I couldn't understand why Victor would get involved in something that was going on between Vadim and I. But
because he is Vic Sanchez.
There were a lot of Victor Rambo Sanchez's in the PBA when I arrived in the Philippines. Anchi De La Cruz. And
right.
All of the rugged players, hindi lahat ng rugged players sa PBA ang malaki. Some were small. I mean, not really small, but they weren't really big guys. Like Sonny Jaworski is about 6'1", but he's the most physical guy in the league. Okay,
that's right.
I mean, if you go anywhere near Sonny Jaworski, you should have your elbows up, ready to hit him. Because if you don't hit him, he's
going to hit you.
He's going to hit you as he runs by. Yeah, so that's the way the NBA was in those days.
Norm, would you agree? Ang isang observation ngayon, the current NBA players are soft compared dun sa
no.
the 80s or 90s. Okay, I mean, what's your take on that?
I don't agree with that. I think players play in the era that they play in.
Okay.
The rules dictate how they play.
Yes.
Remember, back in the old days with the Pistons and the Bad Boys and the Knicks, and you could play that way because you might get like $100 fine. Yeah. $200 fine.
Now you get a $15,000 fine.
$50,000 fines. You know, nobody wants to have to pay the commissioner $50,000 because they hit
That's
somebody.
right.
So of course you're going to control your emotions. You're going to control your physicality because you're not trying to give money away. You need to be going pair up. You're not giving it away to people. So I think the players today, because they are big, Malakas and Katawan, they can be just as physical as the guys were before if the league would allow them to do so.
Yeah, before clotheslining was the norm.
You look at some of those New York Knicks, Detroit Pistons battles back in the 80s. Yeah. Ooh, that was pretty tough.
Sahod Incorporated yung mga yun, di ba?
Yeah,
even Lakers versus Boston, diba?
Right.
Yeah, that's tough. And picking up from players playing under the same rules now, they're all playing under the same conditions, of course. So that determines whether you're going to be better or not. And they're going to be playing under the same balls this year. So Amon, tell us about how Wilson basketballs, how Wilson basketballs got into back into the NBA.
I'm so interested because it was Wilson and then Spalding and now back to Wilson. What makes Wilson special?
Actually, a lot of the people now in this generation didn't know that when NBA actually starting, it's really Wilson ball together with them. Since 1946, when NBA is starting, Wilson na yung gamit nila until 1983. That's almost 34 years of partnership. Until now that last June 17, nag-announce sila ng partnership and they're looking on perfect timing for the 75 years of NBA. So parang sinabi ni Adam Silver during the press conference that we're just going back to the root where we started the league. So that's
Kumbinsido na ako, Almond, no? Ibibigay ko na lang sa address ko para kahit ipag-grab mo na lang yung
or idaan mo muna kay Norman para ma-signan yung ball tapos
Almond, ako pipick upin ko. Hindi ko yung mga iba.
Pakikuha mo na lang yung sa akin dito.
Speaking of long relationships, si Norman himself has had a long relationship with BioFresh Socks, no, Teddy?
Burlington actually yung the main factory.
Yung brand.
Siya yung face ng ng Burlington Socks before. Di ba?
Alam niyo kung saan kami nag-meet?
Matagal na.
Norman, do you remember? Do you remember?
Not Victoria Court, for sure.
No! Definitely not.
Hindi si Lito nag-host nun.
Oo nga. Diba?
I remember Burlington basketball tips, Teddy.
Yes.
Yun,
no, but we first met at the San Miguel office at Ayala Corner, Paseo de Rojas.
Yung original pa.
Yeah, he was the external affairs manager, Norman. Correct?
Correct.
Cool.
That's right.
Okay.
I
was
head
in
of the
one
sports
episode.
program.
Yeah.
I was being
Yes,
lectured on by Norman in one episode.
Yes, with
Burlington
the,
Basketball.
with the what was the radio station, Bob?
DMZ, LT89.
Yeah, DMC guys, with the DMC guys.
Okay.
Diba? You called me a very good shooter.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Kasi
Teka,
alam
let's-
nyo, sa Burlington Tips, bawal ipakita yung miss shot. Kaya hanggang
Yes.
hindi mo na-shoot, hindi mag-stop si Norman ng
So,
ng recording.
paano nangyari sa'yo, Teddy? Di mga isang araw yung shooting mo?
Hindi ako sinali.
Akala ko. Kanina you mentioned Onchi de la Cruz, no? Onchi's son, JR, who used to play with FEU, the champion team, nakasama sila Arwin, is the one who set up the Hustle Basketball Training Camp, no? And he called me up, and JR told me to invite you, Norman, to pay him a visit, or he's gonna have you picked up to visit his camp in Pampanga. It's a very nice camp, offering
Sure.
lessons from kids up to semi-professionals. Very nice.
O dapat Wilson Balls ang official.
Oo nga, sasabihin ko, Almond, sasabihin ko kay
They have reached out already.
ayun,
Sir.
good.
Nag-reach
Ano
out
pang
na si Hassel
ano pang
Basketball
hinihintay mo? Ako isa sa mga coach doon. Di
Yung
ba?
sa atin na lang pala hindi dumarating.
Oo nga no, tagal naman.
Okay. Just
I
a
would
serious
be open to that.
reaction kay Norman. You said before NBA players will just be fined $100, $200, they can easily afford. But if you look at the salaries of the players before, I did some research. Bill Russell was only about $100,000 a year. Will Chamberlain was $250,000 a year. Umakyat yan yung time nila Magic Johnson, Larry Bird is making about $7 million at the highest per year. Compared mo ngayon kay Stephen Curry, who's the
Si Steph Curry, grabe ngayon.
salary, about almost $46 million in 1 year. Although it is LeBron James who gets the highest pay if you include salaries plus endorsements at about $111 million a year, which means they can also afford to pay $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 fines.
My
So-
God, that's my life savings already. $15,000.
Many times over our lives, man.
Lito,
Oo,
before
eh.
Norman answers, may we know, Norman, if you don't mind, how much were you paid during your Detroit?
Oh, he
stint?
minds. He minds.
He minds. He would mind.
He minds.
Just to compare to what Lito.
You mean for 10 days, Teddy? How was it?
Yeah, 10-day contract. Was that a per game or per day?
Actually, when I was in the NBA, the minimum salary was $45,000 a year.
Okay.
A year.
So you can imagine what Lito's saying about the salaries of Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. But everything it relates, right? I mean, if you're only getting paid $200,000, you don't want to give somebody $100, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's the same thing. If Kyrie is getting paid, what is he getting paid? 100 million or more, 200 million? Then a lot of times when you get penalized in the NBA, it's not just what they fine you. A lot of times they will suspend you, and that
That's true.
suspension
That's
is
right.
without pay. So every day that you miss, you're actually paying it back to the NBA.
That's right.
So everything relates, right? I mean, as far as the salaries are concerned. In other words, I do not want to be giving Willie Marshall my money. I don't like the idea that I'm actually handing my money to Willie Marshall.
Norm Willie Marshall was stats at that time.
Yeah,
He
we
was
were
a
together.
statistician
I
that
guess
time.
I'm telling you
We were together in
that.
vintage.
He was in the stats at that time.
That's
By the way,
correct.
Ed
Pero
Barbosa
ganun
was
yun, George.
asking.
Ganun yun, George. Yung the league has to earn money first. Diba? So
Yeah.
the teams have to make money for them to be able to pay you. Yun
Yeah.
lang naman. Okay.
It's a business. It's a business. Hey, by the way, Ed Barbosa was asking what was the team of Coach Norman Black. Detroit Pistons for 10 days. Prior to that, the Washington Bullets. Of course, they're not the Bullets anymore because it's politically incorrect to say Bullets, so they changed it to Wizards.
Naging capitals pa ba? Before?
Before,
No,
before
Yeah.
they
before.
were
They're
the
building right
Capital
now.
Bullets.
Oh,
You were the Capital
And
Bullets before.
surprisingly, Washington Wizards #1 as of yesterday.
right.
Sa site nila.
Eastern.
And
Sa
they were
Eastern.
the
Go
seller.
Wizards.
Yeah, they were the cellar dwellers before. They
Yeah.
everybody wanted to play the Washington Bullets before. Paano? Kulela talaga. The Wizards ganun din eh. But
Uh,
now they're doing so good.
Kaya nobody can really tell. You know, sabi nga nila, bilog ang bula. So that's the way
Yun, no?
you treat that. That's why they
Pero
play
pag
games.
Bob, pero pag Wilson balls,
Oo.
perfectong bilog yan. Perfectong
Balik tayo
bilog.
ng balik sa bola. Di ba? Yan
Oo.
yung usapan nila. That's why we keep pounding on.
Pero hindi tayo nagbobolahan ha.
Oo,
Bob,
yun
Hindi
ang
pa rin
nga.
kasi
Bulahan
nagko-commit yung Almond ngayon.
Oo. Ako kahit hindi na yung mga technicolor na nasa likod mo, kahit yung regular orange ball.
Nasa
okay
opisina
na
ka na ba, Almond? Nasa office ka na?
Actually, I'm in a photo shoot and a video shoot because one
Ay,
of the
sorry
gyms in Activate Sports in Mandaluyong.
Oh.
Okay.
Busy kayo.
Aha. Ayun.
By the way,
So,
yung ano
tahi-tahi
ngayon,
po yung schedule eh.
kamusta ang negosyo ng ano ngayon? Ng basketballs ngayong pandemya?
Actually, with the partnership of NBA, last September, nakatulong talaga siya for Wilson Basketball. And a lot of leagues, professionals, recreationals, and commercials are reaching out to be partnered with Wilson. So maraming exciting na mangyayari next year for Wilson Basketball. So looking forward ako that it will transpire to another great year for Wilson Basketball, especially now that it's the official ball of NBA. Malaking tulong talaga yung yung
Ayan.
now
Alam mo,
that we
nabasa
are the
mo ba yung kay
official ball
John
of NBA.
Padilla? Hindi ka raw bobolahin ng Wilson balls. Ayan o. Nakita mo.
Oo,
May fan ka na.
walang bolahan.
Oo. Almond, sabihin mo kay JR De La Cruz ng Hassel, hingin mo yung ownership ng Hassel, Wilson Hassel, di ba?
Yung camp.
Oo. The Wilson Camp.
Sige po. I think
di ba?
they just send I just saw
Proposal.
the message through Instagram sila nag-message last couple of weeks.
I will tell him to message you directly na lang
to
para.
send para formal proposal yun.
Sige.
Ayun,
para,
nabanggit ni Amond yung Instagram. So, back then, Norman, how were coaches able to communicate with players, especially when scouting? Back then and during the NBA days, when you have news about you being taken in by the team or being recruited by the team or dropped, how would you be taking the news back then? They won't
How
text
we
you, of
receive
course.
the news, you mean?
Yeah, how you receive the news.
See me in my
It
office.
was a lot different than it is today, right? Social media has changed everything. Basically, a phone call. That was the easiest way to get in touch with people. Just call them on the phone and spread the news that way. A lot of times you saw it on TV, but it's not the way it is today, where there are so many sports shows on TV every morning that you get the news immediately as it happens. Before, maybe there would be one sports show on that you would watch, everybody would watch to get their news from. It's a lot different today. There's really no comparison as far as how the news spread back in those days. I mean, social media has changed everything as far as how quickly you can be aware of what's going on around the world.
Football teams, Norman, back then had playbooks.
We're not as isolated anymore, because
that's true.
Before something happened in the States, it may be quite a while before that news got to the Philippines.
Yeah.
Now, if something happens in the Philippines, the people in the States know it immediately.
That's true.
I have an import coming here in this conference. His name is Shabazz Muhammad, and he's a former NBA player. He played 7 years in the NBA. And anything written about him in the PBA right now or in the Philippines, he knows about as soon as it happens. So things have really changed. I mean,
So it's not normal. It's not Durham anymore. Your import.
Durham has a job. Durham
Okay.
is employed in Japan.
Okay.
He signed up with Japan before the PBA even announced that they were going to have imports this year. And he did contact us and he told us his plans, but we could not commit anything because the PBA had not committed to playing with imports in this year. So we told him that, hey, if you have a job already, you should take it because we can't guarantee you that we're even going to have imports. And then a few weeks ago, we were told that we were going to have imports. But he's already employed, I think, until April. He'll be in Japan until April.
So Shabazz already knows about the PBA when you started talking to him, Norman?
Well, you talk to his agent. You don't talk to him directly.
I see.
And his agent,
I thought it would
placed players here in the PBA before.
I thought the fact that they know exactly what happens.
Right now.
I see. So that doesn't scare him or anything. Did that scare him?
No. Shabazz he's a veteran. He's 28 years old. He's played in the NBA for 7 years. He's played 2 years in China.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be worried about the competition here in the PBA. He's going to come here and try to play his best and show his talents. He's a very talented guy. He's very athletic.
Ayan, Lito, nakita mo yung huling comment? With the advent of social media, dumami yung basketball analyst. Ayan, umatango si Almond.
Hindi lang sa basketball, pare. Talk about volleyball, talk about all sports.
Oo, sa volleyball nga eh. Di ba?
Suddenly, everyone knows
politics.
Politics.
Okay, yung kaninang tanong, how will a player know if he will be traded or not? Based on actual that I've seen, the player is the last to know. Everything has been agreed upon already. The player still doesn't know.
I remember what happened to Rick Mahorn.
Remember Johnny Barrientos got traded? We didn't know.
That may be correct. The player normally is the last to know.
Yeah.
If the deal has been finalized, but the player is not the last to know that he may be traded. Remember, whenever a player is traded, there are agents involved. There are people involved who are negotiating the trade. And normally the team will contact the agent of that player and tell that agent what's happening.
Yeah.
So they have some idea, even though they may not know about the finality of the trade. They have an idea that something's going on. And in our case, what we try to do is to make sure we contact the player before the deal is finalized. So he doesn't find out through the media. He doesn't find out through listening to it on the radio or listening to it on TV. That's, for us, that's a professional way to do it.
Yeah, but Norman, is that being practiced by everybody here and there? I know. We lost him again. So there.
No, it's not. Different team managers, different styles, different ways of doing things. So kapag tinanong mo manager dati, i-deny yun. Kasi hindi pa nila na-finalize. They'll tell you, hindi totoo yan. Tapos magugulat ka lang, bukas i-announce. Ito na yan.
Nadyaryo pa, no? I'd like to ask Coach Norman, aren't you envious of the NBA where they have crowds now attending the games? How big are the fans? How big are the fans in terms of the factors in winning basketball games?
I'll speak as a player, former player.
Yes.
Having the fans in the gym, that's huge. I mean, that's your motivation.
Yeah.
Players play the game of basketball because they want people to know that they're good. They want people to appreciate their talents. And in a way, players want to go out and show off a little bit. They want to go off and show off their talents. They want people to be impressed with their talents. So having the fans in the gym is big time. I mean, I'm hoping we'll get the fans back in the PBA this conference, but it just helps to motivate you. Of course, the Philippines is a little bit different in the fact that, Ginebra has the most fans. So it's normally a Ginebra game where the most fans show up. But all of the teams have a fan base. They have people that go there every game just to support that particular team. So for the players, it's big to have the fans coming back into the arena. So I hope it happens in this conference.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So
everybody's
during the bubble at Clark, so no Ginebra advantage. It was a level playing field.
Well, they're pretty good, so it doesn't really matter whether they're fans there or not. They have a lot of talent. But yeah, there's nobody in the gym. The only people in the gym are the teams and the officials of the PBA, and the people who work in the gym where we're playing. That's it. Of course, the TV, if they're covering the games, the cameramen are there, but not even the guys commentating the games are there. They're in Metro Manila, so
yeah, they're in,
it's
they're
really
in
a
the studio.
skeleton force. It also, for me, it gives the younger players a chance.
Oh, you lost me.
Pero Ted, alam mo, fan base before and after, yung noon, nung kalakasan ng PBA, you would have fans club for each team. Then you had individual fans club for players.
Yes.
Jojo Lastimosa fans club, Vin Season fans club. Yun yung nawala dun sa current ngayon.
And the George Boone
That's one
All-Timers
factor that affected the PBA, I think. Norman, inabot mo yung time na yun, di ba? That each team had its own big fans club, and then the players will have their own fans club. You remember those times, Norman?
When I coached San Miguel, we had our own fans club.
Yeah.
And it was
the players had their own.
And
Yeah,
we
San
would have
Miguel was
about
huge
20
that
to
time.
25 fans come to every practice. They would be in practice. I mean, Ginebra had a huge fan club because of Sonny Jaworski. Albert Patrimonio had his own fans club.
Yeah.
Yep.
Along with his team, Jojo Lastimosa.
Yep.
Johnny Abrientos. Alaska had a fans club. That's something that we're missing a little bit now.
Yes.
That we need to try to get back. That's normally started by just a few fans, huh? And then they recruit other fans, and before you know it, it grows. So that's something I think the team can encourage.
Except for Crispa and Toyota. Then,
well, they didn't need
either your Crispa or your Toyota. That's it. Okay, those were the days. There were only two teams in the PBA.
You know, this is a good year for
NBA. Lito.
This is a good year for the Philippines in the NBA ngayon, ano? Kasi meron tayong dalawang technically Filipino players there. And then there's Jimmy Alapag, who's assistant coach now sa Sacramento. No, magandang development yan
G-League. Sa G-League pa lang.
No, nasa Sacramento siya. Nasa Kings na siya. Nasa Kings siya. Assistant
lang sa G-League.
Yeah, Norman, we were talking about how good it is a year for the Philippines in the NBA right now because we have technically two Filipino-blooded players active there. And then there's Jimmy, who's working in the Kings as an assistant coach.
Yeah, I'm so happy for Jimmy, if I could just start with that. I worked with Jimmy with Talking Text. I worked with him with Moralco. He was my assistant coach. I think he's just a great guy. As I've always told him, as long as I have a head coaching job, he'll have an assistant coaching job because that's how much respect I have for him. I'm hoping and praying that his team does well in the G League and he's able to continue to move up the ladder and hopefully one day get to the men's team, to the NBA team. So I'm really happy for him and I'm hoping for the best for him. I'm really excited about Green. And I know Houston's not doing too well right now, but I'm hoping that he does well. I know he has a game against Cunningham today. I think Houston plays Detroit. And that should be a big game because it's between the number 1 and 2 drafted players in this recent draft. So, the Filipinos have done well. I mean, if we have the 6th man in the league, and we have the number 2 pick in the draft. And the most important thing for me is that, más importante, they recognize their Filipino roots.
Yeah.
Yes,
They
that's
recognize
right.
them. They celebrate them. They're boisterous with it. You know, where they came from, where their parents came from. So, it's something to be proud of. It's something to keep track of as the season goes on.
Okay,
I'll ask the three.
guys,
I'll
would
ask
you
Lito.
remember?
Yeah.
Would
Sige,
you
Lito.
remember outside of Norman Block, who's a legitimate ex-NBA, who were the other NBA players who played in the PBA over the
Marami.
years?
Kevin Gamble,
The best one.
Walt Frazier.
David Thirdkill. Did Walt Frazier play?
Not Walt
Crispa.
Frazier.
Crispa.
No.
Walt, the one from New York?
Yeah, nung may Salem Winston noon, tapos they included
Well,
the NBA players to be the imports of the
Ayan yung
PBA.
group of
Exhibition.
NBA players.
Yes. But they
I'm
distributed
talking
them
kasi
to
yung imports who played as imports for PBA teams.
Kevin
Third Kill.
Gamble, David Thirdkill.
was one of the
Third Kill,
better ones.
right.
Glenn
Billy Ray Bates.
McDonald was another one.
Billy Ray Bates.
Bates.
Billy Ray Bates was one of the best.
Mm.
AJ, Aaron James, the one who teamed
Aaron
up
James.
with
Yeah, Aaron James, right.
Glenn McDonald for UTEX. Kevin
Glenn
Gamble
McDonald,
is
yes.
another.
Glenn McDonald for Boston.
Boston Celtics.
Yeah,
yes.
Boston. Okay.
Norman, were you able to play alongside Dave Bing?
Mga PBA and NBA players who did well with us in the PBA.
Norman, were you able to play alongside Dave Bing
Dave Bing?
with the Pistons? Yeah,
Dave Bing, right.
No.
I know you've been
much older than me.
He came earlier.
About
I
10
think.
years older.
Oh, thank
I
goodness.
never played with
I
Dave.
thought.
Dave Bing
My
even
guys
played
I
here.
would've come out with, the guys I would have come out with would have.
Oh, you lost him again.
Ang
Ay, tanungin
internet niya milagrosa.
Yeah.
Tanungin ko si
Oo.
Almond tsaka si Lito.
Minsan wala, minsan meron.
Paano ba
Milagrosa.
nagsisimula yung popularity
Parang ano
ng
yan,
teams?
parang patay sindi yan eh. Yung
Yes, paano nagsisimula yung maging popular yung isang team? Dahil ba nananalo o dahil sikat yung mga player?
Walang
Dito.
single factor eh. I think it's a combination of
Combination.
things eh. Of course, yung performance ng team would be one big factor. Tapos yung players mo, yung charisma niyan sa fans. Kay Bobby Jaworski had one of the best charisma with the player, with fans. Kaya ang laki ng fan base ng Ginebra. Sinundan si Sunny from Toyota sa Ginebra.
yeah.
Loyal sa kanya yung teams. Yung
Hindi, pero kahit
fans
wala
niya.
na siya, no? Wala na siya, nag-stay yung mga fans.
Yung
Dikit
style
pa rin
of
sa
play, I think,
Legacy kasi niya.
nila eh. Never say
Lega-
die.
Legacy
Yun ang gusto ng fans
ni
eh.
Manong Bobby yan. Oh.
I may question for Norman. Galing kay Mandy Angeles. When I was in the US, were you a television news reporter? Is that correct, Norman? Ay, nawala si Norman.
I guess that
Si
means...
Almond, tanungin natin yung pagiging popular ng isang team. Dahil ba sa bola yon o sa...
may hindi ako a combination of yun nga yung performance of the team and
Potential lang, guys, ha?
Katulad ni Giannis, di ba? He made an history in winning yun sa Milwaukee, di ba? And he ranked number one after that winning.
And Norman, thank you for trying to come back every time. We know it's not easy, but thank you.
Yeah, something frustrating, but okay lang.
Yeah. Can you take this question
can I
now?
ask
Were
you
you
a
a
question?
television news reporter?
No, actually, I worked for WDAS Radio in Philadelphia,
there.
Pennsylvania. I did news and sports for a radio station
Okay.
when I first
So,
got out of
Good,
college.
correct.
Galing ni
Mandy,
Mandy.
So
eh.
I didn't do any TV work until I arrived in the Philippines, and I worked for Bobong Velez at Vintage.
Yes, vintage. Yeah.
Vintage
That's us.
Enterprises. But in the States, I actually worked for WDAS Radio FM. And I had
you
I had
finish
to
a
get up
course,
every
Norman,
single
in
morning.
college about mass
I was an
communications.
English major, communications major in college. Yes,
Okay,
English major.
okay.
Yes.
Nag-abot ba si Norman Black at si Billy Ray Bates sa
Yes.
NBA? Sa NBA.
Sa
Hindi sa
NBA.
PBA. Hindi siguro. I don't think so.
No.
Okay. I can answer for that. That question at least.
Pwede ko kayong tanungin si Norman.
Yes,
Norman,
sure.
updated ba yung internet accounts mo?
Here's a
Norman,
sticking question, Norman.
Norman, a question for you. You keep
Yes.
going on and off, right? Are you
Yes.
updated in your payments sa Wi-Fi and internet?
I'll check the lang sa boss ko, si Boss Al Bolivia. Bakit may problema sa internet dito sa bahay? Hindi ko alam.
Okay. Alam niyo,
I think
isang
I'm
pwede
updated,
natin
yes.
pag-usapan pala na maraming maraming, arguments eh. Sino yung dapat napasama sa top 75?
Hindi, bakit?
Diba?
Bakit
Kasi
hindi
marami daw
napasama?
maraming hindi dapat nakapasok. Di ba? Merong nakapasok na hindi naman dapat nakapasok at meron dapat pumasok. Right? So maybe we can toss
why?
names around. Yeah.
Yes,
Mga
Normal.
senador ba pinag-uusapan natin, Lito? Mga senador ba yan? O
Top 75
Congress?
NBA players. Example, si
75
Dwight
NBA.
Howard. Dwight
Yeah.
Howard.
One of the biggest bust daw. Bakit
Oh.
hindi isinama considering his record? So let's ask first an ex-NBA player, si Norman. What do you think of the top 75 and all of this talk about why didn't they include this guy? Why did they include that other guy? What can you say about the top 75 choices sa NBA?
Well, ang feeling ko, may number, diba? Top 75. So, syempre, there'll always be a debate. Bucket and 76 hindi included sa 75. There'll always be a debate, and no matter what you say, you left somebody out that should have been in, etc., etc. But I think all 75 players who are there are deserving. They're proving their worth, and they deserve to be in that list. I do believe Dwight Howard antics and maybe his off the court and maybe sometimes his attitude on the court may have affected some people who voted for that. But when you think about his actual performance on the court, you would think he would be included in the top 75. But I can't argue with the guys who are there. I mean, they're all deserving.
Yeah. This is actually the same question in 1996 when they celebrated the 50 years of the NBA.
Yeah.
Correct. That's
Same
right.
questions came out.
Ay, magpapaalam na raw si Almond kasi start na nung video shoot. Thank you, Almond, ng Wilson
Almond, thank
Balls.
you. Padala mo na lang.
Ako, pinadala ko na yung address ko. Ewan ko sa inyo.
Kayo guys, sino yung mga player outside of Dwight Howard na you feel should have been in? At sino naman yung player na should be out?
Ako, ang ano ko lang, general answer, dapat the older guys should be given priority. I mean, yung mas matagal sa liga na nag-retire na kasi mas sikat yung iba eh. Di ba? Yun lang as a general answer.
But isang problema mga current generation, ang alam lang itong present, talagang konti ang alam nila dun sa past. So, ang daming ang players na current pa lang pumasok na dun sa top 75.
Siguro
Okay,
dito
ako,
if they had older voters, baka ganun yung magiging sway ng voting.
Dito may additional akong question kay Norman. Norman, there were enforcers in the PBA on the hard court or in the hard court. Pero meron din sa journalism. Dito, you'll be surprised among the sports writers. Norman, you are friends with them.
Yes, that's right.
No.
Yeah. Mm.
But there was an instance. Do you
Oh,
do you want
there's
to?
always been hard hitters as far as the journalism is concerned.
Oh yeah.
Guys who they call it as they see it, and they
Yeah.
don't worry about what other people say about them. That's their job, and a lot of times they are columnists, and they have opinions, and they share their opinions. I've always said, Teddy, as long as it's fair, I think anybody who does the job as far as being a sports writer should be allowed to say or write what they want to write, as long as it's fair and it's true. But I think opinion is something that everybody has and everybody can utilize. I know over the years, Ronnie Nathaniel was a hard-hitting columnist. Kenito Henson, hard-hitting columnist. They call it as they see it. They're not trying to make enemies, but at the same time, they're not out there trying to make friends either. I mean, they're just doing their job. So, I mean, you have guys today who are very, very similar, who probably aren't loved by everybody because of some of the things they write. But at the same time, like I said, as long as it's fair, as long as it's true, then I think it's their job and they should be allowed to do their job.
That's true. And of course, the lines of respect should not be crossed. No, it should stay there.
Oh, by the
So
way,
respect should
Vico
remain.
is one of the most respected in the industry. His opinions are based on facts, not
Yeah,
on
because I
mohas.
came from Victoria
Not on
Court. Yeah.
No? Yeah.
No, but I remember Donnie, not Don, Lamont Strotters.
Oh, yeah, the
Tandaan niyo si
import.
Lamont. Nasa
Yes.
Araneta kami. Hindi siya naglalaro, nanonood lang siya doon sa may dugout, yung pagpasok ng court. So I was writing 2 columns at that time. So I wanted to get some one-liners from Lamont. So I asked him a question. I was taken aback by his answer. He said, no. You media people, you always blow things out of proportion. What's the problem with this guy?
Then
And I never
generalize.
interviewed him after that. Never interviewed him again. Right? Lamont Strotter.
Si Norman naman, exact opposite. Very
Yeah.
yan.
No,
Very kind.
Walang problema media kay Norman.
Well, maybe also because I've been part of media. I've done the telecasts over the years. I've actually written articles. So I've been on the other side. I know somebody has to report what's going on. And when you report something, you don't always make everybody happy. I mean, you don't always satisfy everybody. So that's just part of the game. I mean, that's part of the way it is. But more importantly, that's your profession. That's what you do for a living. If you're a sports writer, if you're a columnist, I mean, that's what you do. So, like I said, as long as you're fair, as long as you're true, hey, what can you say? I mean, basketball players go out and play basketball, but they don't always have great games.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Do we have a version of Wodge here, Norman?
Bad nights. So,
would you say that we have a Filipino version of Wodge Shranovsky here? Would you say that we have a Filipino version of Wodge here in our shores?
This is what I would say, because I watch Stephen A. Smith. I watch all those other guys that are so opinionated on TV, First Take, and all the other shows that come on every single morning. And even when you watch Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal and Kenny Smith, right, NBA,
Inside the NBA.
Inside the NBA, excuse me. They're very opinionated. They're not going to make everybody happy. I'm not even sure we can have a show like that in the Philippines because, hey, people would be
our
very,
onions
very
here have thinner
sensitive to
skins.
some of the things that are being said. They would not be very happy. And remember, the Philippines is a smaller world than the United States. I mean, Charles Barkley can be in Atlanta, Georgia, and he may not see one of those players the entire year. In the Philippines, we all play in the same gym. All the sports writers are in the same gym. So when you come out of the locker room, you see the guys that are writing things. So it would be a little bit different because you would have a lot of face-to-face contact. Unlike what happens in the States, where Stephen A. Smith may see a player he's talking about, or he may not see him the entire year. He doesn't really know. Yeah, but it's interesting. Actually, to be quite honest with you, I would love to see a show very similar to what happens in the States here in the Philippines.
Then get Snow Badwa to host it. Norm, you get Snow Badwa to host it.
He would probably be the one. You know, he's another hard-hitting columnist here.
That kind of format.
A hard-hitting columnist right now for the young guys.
I Snow,
but
you're watching.
yeah, it's. I think something like that would work here, but I don't think the people who would be hosting the show would have very many friends. That would probably be the case.
Sometimes, Norman, the problem is also with players. When we write something about players, they react to them differently. As you're saying, you don't always make friends with what you write. Okay, you remember John Best?
Yeah, my former player.
Yeah.
This was at the height of the coming in of Phil Amps, which turned out to be Phil Shams yung marami sa kanila. And we were in Pagsanghan. They had a game there out of town. Benji Paras. I was talking with Benji Paras and Ronnie Magsanok about the Phil Amps. And all of them were complaining about the coming in of Phil Amps. Remember, even the PBA Players Association was taking a stand against this Phil Amps.
Yeah.
Yes, chimed into the conversation. He wasn't part of it. I wasn't talking to him because it's not a film. So he started talking and siding with Benji Paras, criticizing the PBA. Okay, I wrote a story because he never said it was off the record. So I wrote a story. We came out in Manila Times. The headline was John Best Blast the PBA. I got calls from John Best. I didn't say that. I told him, you look in the story. Where do you find that I said you blast the PBA? That was the work of the desk. They have to make the titles, headlines catchy. Right? But if you read the story, there's no... I did quote him that he was blasting the PBA. Ang talo lang niya, one write-up for him, tatlo ang sagot ko eh. Because I was writing in several newspapers and magazines. And I remember, John Best is not the best after all. I mean, you cannot beat a writer when it comes to yung ganyan labanan. Sabihin niya, yun ang sinasabi ko, pwedeng mag-iba yung tingin nila sa sinulat mo. Yung fairness na sinasabi, we have different versions of or definitions of what is fair. Okay? Even what is good, what is bad. We will all have our own definitions of these words. So, kakaroon talaga ng conflict. But Norman, there's no money in writing. No money in writing, believe me.
Well,
Better play basketball na lang.
There's no money in writing. Sports writing is good for young people with no families. Very good.
Norman?
I actually write for the NBA right now, and I know what you're saying. There's not much money involved there. But it's nice to see your name next to that article.
Yes.
That byline, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I do some articles with NBA right now, and they don't really pay that much. But it's nice to see your name with that article. I mean, for me, that's always been a thrill. Even doing the telecast has been a thrill, being part of the media. But just going back to what you're saying, I think any player or any professional knows that the writer writes the article, the editor probably chooses the title.
Yeah.
because he's trying to attract people to the article.
Yes.
So he's going to put a title there that's attractive, that people will go, oh, let me read that. That's just the way that part of the world goes. As far as, you know, I use Ronnie Nathaniels. He's passed already. Because Ronnie was pretty hard hitting. You know, he just called it as he saw it. And
No.
And
Ronnie Nathaniels.
He'll just call it as he saw it, and then mahalanad. Let it fall where it falls. But most good columnists are very fair. In other words, they also have a softer side too. They'll call things in favor as much as they'll call things in favor against. Mm-hmm. If you understand what I'm saying, they will be honest and they will be fair in the end. The problem is, I think with guys like myself, when I first started out, is you get a little bit sensitive when you see something negative written about you. And you're only happy when there's something positive being written about you. But there's a balance. It depends on what needs to be written at that particular time. Maybe something you did. I went after Victor Sanchez and tried to break his chest, you know, by forearming him in the chest. That's not good. I mean, who's going to write something good about that? I remember Ronnie Nathaniel said something about me that stood up to this day stays with me, okay?
Stings,
said, huh? I'm the nicest, dirtiest player ever to play in the PBA.
Oh, general statement.
That's what he wrote about me.
No, it's a superlative.
He's really nice off the court, but once he gets on the court, you know, he's dirty. So I took it as, you know, yeah, I'm not gonna let you just run over me. You know, I'm gonna stand up for myself when I'm out there on the court. I didn't take it that I was a dirty player. I took it as, hey, I'm tough. So you have to read into what's being written. You can't always be super sensitive about what's being written because the person who's writing it is just doing their job. That's how I feel about it. And that's somebody who's been part of the media as well as being part of the basketball side.
Oh, by the way, George had to go and he has to attend a class. He has this class.
Diba, I asked you to bring papers and pen. Do you have?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Right.
All of us did.
Mine is pink, huh? Mine is colored pink.
Is Norman in this deal?
Yes.
This?
All
Okay.
of us.
Okay.
This is how the
Baka
game
Christmas,
goes.
Christmas wish list.
Oh.
Papadala ni Teddy
Trivia.
afterward.
NBA trivia. May may premyo
Wow.
Special shirts from Design Makati. Gagawin pa lang kasi hindi alam yung size ng mananalo. Sana ako ng bola. Hingi sana ako ng bola para sa winner. Wala na si Almond. Anyway, this is how it goes. All of us will answer. And then 2 rounds. Each one of us will ask a question per round. Tayo rin ang sasagot. We will all answers.
What do you mean? You answer your own question? You know?
Yes, only once per set. Diba? Bob, you'll start. But we'll all answer, including you. Then the second, I will ask the question. Then the third, Norman. And then the fourth, Lito. And then we'll have another round. So whoever gets the most correct answers win.
Pero one question, bali 4 questions lang yan.
Hindi, 8 questions, 2 rounds.
Kasi double round.
2 rounds, yeah. Parang PBA din to, double round.
But what's the subject, Teddy?
NBA.
NBA.
Trivia.
Okay.
NBA
Tatanong
trivia.
ko sana kung ano yung bagong Taylor Swift album or something.
Okay, Bob, ready ka sa first question mo, Bob?
NBA,
dalian natin, Kunyari, mahirap yung tanong. We can have a choice. Either true or false or may enumerated ka A, B, C. Kasi okay lang mahirap eh. Sa'yo madali lang? Sige. Sige, game.
Madali lang. Sige.
Game.
Ano ang total ng 2 playing numbers ni LeBron James? Hirapan bigla.
What's that again?
What is the total of the two playing numbers of LeBron James in the NBA?
Baka tama pero mali ang addition.
If Kobe had 24 and 8, which totals 32, what would be LeBron? Teddy's raising his paper, and well, he got it, I think. 23 and 6 is 29.
Not applicable. Ibig sabihin, I don't know.
Norman, what's your answer?
My turn?
Yeah. No, your answer first. You answer.
Well,
To
I just
Bob's
saw your
question.
answer, so I know it's correct. So
Siyempre, si Bob.
I'm not going to show a wrong answer, Teddy.
So, Bob, siyempre, tama ka.
I couldn't
tama ako.
remember his other number. I only remember number 6. I couldn't remember the 23.
Just last year, it was
Ano
23.
So, tama ako, taka si Bob, siyempre. Siya nagtanong.
You mean ako nagtanong?
Oo,
Tama
sasagot
rin
ka
ako.
rin. Sasagot ka rin.
Oh?
Kasi para ang sagot natin lahat, 8 answers.
So, may minimum 2 points tayo each. Kasi tayo
Can I ask a
nagtanong.
question?
Yes.
So, si
Does
Norman
the
na.
question have to be factual, or can it be something that hasn't happened yet?
No, it has to be factual. Trivia.
Has to be factual.
Yeah.
Ako muna. I'll ask the question. Wait, I will look at my código.
See you, Daya.
No,
Huwag mo
this
tanong
is
yung
prepared
Huwag mo
questions
tanong
ito.
Huwag ka magtatanong ng year, Teddy, na year na nag-umpisa yung shot
Tell us
clock.
to
Ganun.
prepare, Teddy.
No, how many commissioners in the NBA from the beginning to now? How many?
Hold up.
Okay, Bob, what's your answer?
I'll say
4?
4, si Bob. Si Lito. 6.
Six.
Si Norman.
6.
6. 5 only. Hindi pa na-appoint si Norman na pang 6. Ito yung explanation. From Maurice
Podoloff.
Podolf, J. Walter
Podoloff.
Kennedy, Larry
Kennedy.
O'Brien, David
Ah,
Stern, and Adam Silver. So,
So how many?
5.
5.
Ma. So mali ulit.
Yes. Mali.
Sobra nga,
my
Norman
turn.
eh. Sobra. Okay. Sino
Okay, my
mauna?
turn.
Norman o Lito? Lito.
Okay.
Dito na lang.
In 1978, the NBA played its very first overseas game, featuring an NBA team versus a non-NBA team. Who were
So
these
hindi
two
siya
teams?
NBA game. Hindi siya NBA
Hindi
game
siya,
talaga.
hindi siya
Exhibition
official
lang.
NBA game.
Exhibition.
But it was the first time that an NBA team went out to play. This was 1978. So
Question
who were
is,
these two teams?
Saan ginawa ito? Clue. Saan ginawa?
Middle East.
Oh.
Hirap,
Bob,
no?
ito. Ready ka na, Bob?
alam ko lang, hindi ito eh.
Hindi ko rin alam.
alam ko yung ginawa dito. Yung The Cannonballs of the Philippines.
79.
Finally, may tatama akong sagot, ah.
Si Norman na wala na naman.
Hindi, andyan na siya
Ayan,
ulit.
Norman. Yan na. So yung tanong, first overseas exhibition game between two NBA teams.
Yeah.
Norman.
Isa
One
lang.
was an NBA team, one was a non-NBA team.
Okay.
Si Norman nag-google pa, kaya siya nawala. He's gonna
Norman, what's the
So,
answer?
Norm, you have an answer?
Hindi ko alam.
Ako
Okay,
din.
that's a good answer because that's also the same answer as the other two gentlemen. Washington versus Maccabi. Remember Maccabi,
Where?
the Israel champion
Maccabi?
team?
Okay.
Maccabi, yeah. And
Saan
unfortunately for Washington, they lost. So finally,
I
I
remember
have
the game.
one correct answer. Huh?
I have two.
I remember the game that happened the following year
So,
dito,
Bob has
yung
one.
Philippines yung kalaban.
Norman has
None.
0.
Wala.
Lito has
Okay.
1.
I'll ask
next
the
round.
Next question.
Next question, Norman.
Yeah.
A few years ago, the PBA invited NBA players to come over and play in the Philippines, in the Araneta Coliseum.
Mhm.
If you remember, there was no game because the NBA would not allow them to play a game.
Yes.
So what the players did was they did like a little clinic and they did drills, etc., etc. Do you remember who was the coach of that team, that NBA team that came over to the Philippines? That was right during the, I think it was the lockout.
Yeah, that was
Do
the
you remember who
lockout.
the coach was?
Lockout year.
The
This is
coach.
just a guess. This is
Yes,
just a
they had a
guess,
coach
Norman.
that came over with them. Yes. Who do you have?
Popovich?
Pop, which probably is wrong. Greg
I
Popovich.
know it's wrong.
Can you call
Didn't
it out? I
Kobe
can't-
play? Didn't Kobe act as the playing coach? He didn't.
Huh?
This is wrong. Okay. I concede.
What's the right
Thank you.
answer? Norman, what's the correct answer?
The head coach was John Lucas.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
John Lucas?
Remember John Lucas?
So
former
Norman-
player?
Yeah, I think I remember. Yeah.
I
Norman gets
remember
1
Jerry
point.
Lucas.
No, John
No,
Lucas.
not
John
Jerry Lucas. John Lucas, the former tennis player, basketball player, head coach for the Houston Rockets, head coach for the
Okay.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Mhm.
I'm
Okay.
trying to give you something where everybody would get it wrong, so I can catch up.
I know. That's sneaky.
Norman, we're tied 1-1. Huh?
1-1, Bob. Bob won. Also 1, Bob.
Yeah, because of my
I
question.
got 2.
You have 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Second round. The last round.
Hirap naman.
Bob.
Ako na naman. Okay.
Dalian nyo naman yung tanong.
Oo nga eh.
Kaya nga pwedeng true or false eh.
Madali
Diba?
nga yung sa akin eh.
Madali yung
Okay.
true or false. 50% probability.
Okay. NBA, ano?
Yes, NBA.
Okay. Sige, ito madali. In the 1980s, biglang ganun. The NBA was in a very famous campaign, a one-word campaign. They were parading a very famous campaign on television and everywhere in the media using one word, which we adapted here, and we called it hanep or something like that. But in the NBA, that word
Madali pa yan?
stood out.
Madali
Yeah,
ba yan, Bob?
Isang word lang yan. It was a campaign when you said NBA, there's this adjective right after.
Para bibigyan ka pa
Importante
namin
yung
na isang pagkakataon na baguhin yan.
Baka alam ni Norman eh. Norman might know. Di ba? Do
I
you
don't know.
remember the Jordan
No.
era?
I don't know any.
Okay, sige. The answer is fantastic. Pero sige. Palit.
Okay. Parang
NBA,
wow ng
fantastic. Matagal yun.
Ang dumating sa akin yung We've Got Game eh. We've Got Game.
bago
Ano
na
yun eh. Oo, bago
We got
na.
game. Tsaka I love this game. Pero
Oh,
yung
ako.
fantastic, matagal yun.
Ako. So si Bob 2
Yeah.
points na tied na
Hindi,
kami,
wala
diba?
yun. Ganun ba? Valid ba yung tanong ko?
Oo, valid yun. Kaso
Sige
nawawala
na.
si Norman eh.
Oo.
Okay, ito yung second question ko. May isang personality sa PBA, nanalo siya as a player, championship as a player, assistant coach, head coach, and executive. Who is this guy? Still
Sa
around.
Alam ko,
still
NBA.
around. NBA nga
Di ba
to.
NBA?
NBA, National Basketball Association. Norman, my question is, there is one personality in the NBA still active now who won a championship, at least one finals as a player, as an assistant coach, as a coach, and as an executive. Who is this guy? Still active in the
What
in
is
the
he now?
NBA?
He's an executive now.
That's
Yes,
a giveaway.
yes.
So he won one as a player.
As an assistant coach.
Pat
And-
Riley.
Coach?
Okay, Norman is correct. Bob,
Oh.
the answer, ano yan? Danny Ainge?
Danny Ainge.
Pat
Oh,
Riley.
Tama.
Okay.
Kasi
Mali.
nanalo ba si Danny Ainge as an assistant? Hindi yata.
Ewan ko. I don't know.
Si Lito.
kala ko si Phil Jackson until I It hit me na assistant coach. He was not assistant coach.
Yeah,
I thought it
tsaka
was Phil
active pa.
Jackson.
Active pa. Tama, Pat
So,
Riley.
Pat Riley.
Pat Riley.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Norman, your question?
No, my turn.
Lito.
Napapakamot na lang kami ni Norman.
Interesting. This is
Ito,
interesting.
madali itong tanong na to. Sa NBA,
So I have 3 right answers, 3.
Okay. In the NBA, 2 teams have dominated. We know that. Lakers and Boston in terms of number of championships won. What is the total number of championships won by Boston and Lakers combined?
Kasama yung Minneapolis,
Yeah.
31.
Si Teddy, mukhang may sagot.
34.
Yes. 17 each.
31.
Okay.
30.
And 30. Third is
Hula lang
right. 34. 17 each.
Oh, 4 I got 4 correct answers,
Next time, I'll invent the game.
Teddy, I'll give it the cheat sheet.
No, next time, Norman, we invent the game.
Yeah, no.
Norman, your question. To complete the cycle, your question.
I'm going to give you an easy one. Who was the second leading scorer in the NBA last year?
Wow, that's not easy. In the last season, Last season.
Last year. Yeah, last year.
And don't check it
Second
up.
leading score. No, we don't. No cheating.
My hands are here.
I don't know. I think I don't know. Not sure.
Harden.
No?
Bob, ikaw.
Teddy?
Giannis?
No.
Giannis?
No.
Hindi rin.
Teddy?
Wild guess, Norman. Wild guess. Curry? Steph Curry?
No, Steph Curry was number 1. Bradley
Oh.
Beal was number 2 last year.
Okay,
Who?
Yes.
Who was number 2? Who was number 2?
Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal. Of the
Oh.
Washington.
That was tough. That was hard.
That's what's not easy, Norman.
Not an easy question.
So I
went
won,
down to
I got 4,
Hey, Ted, it went
Yeah.
down to the last game.
Yes.
Curry won it on the
So
last game.
Only a few points between players.
Correct, yes.
Ted gets the prize
Yes.
that he donated.
Congratulations to me. Kasi wala si George Wala si George at si Almond.
You know what?
Yes.
Saksak. Saksakin ka dyan.
Ito magandang question. May prediction ba kayo? Do you have prediction? Who will be in the
Golden
finals?
State.
Who will
Golden
be in the
State.
finals? And in the Eastern? No, the same same conference
Milwaukee.
yan.
Ano? Milwaukee.
Who will be in the finals? That's your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Golden State and
Well, it doesn't look like it's going to be the Lakers, that's for sure.
Not going to be. Norman?
It doesn't look like it's going to be the Lakers, not the way they're moving right now.
yeah.
Unless they trade Russell for someone else.
Well,
The Pistons and the Bulls are doing great.
Be careful with trading Russell Westbrook because remember, he started off the same way for the Wizards last year.
Yeah.
And by the middle of the
I
season,
like the Heat. I like
he played
Miami.
a lot better.
So dito Miami and
Miami and Golden State.
Golden State. Then any bold prediction? Who will be
That's my fearful prediction.
Hindi, who will
Scary.
end up
Golden State.
victorious? Golden State. Okay, Norman?
Norman
Yes, I'm back.
pick. Norman's pick is Meralco.
Versus
TNT.
No,
NBA.
No, NBA picks. Norm.
East and West first.
My NBA picks this year, or who I would like to see make it.
Yes.
I like to see the New Jersey Nets
versus
Brooklyn?
the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
Okay,
Brooklyn,
that's what
Utah.
you'd like to see, Norman. But do you think it will happen?
Right now, if I had to choose, those would be the two teams I would go with. I don't think the Lakers are playing very well right now. I thought Denver was starting to play better, but they just had that problem with Jokic just the other day. Clippers are improving, but I don't think they have enough. Phoenix may be a problem. They may be in the running. They may be there. On the other side, everything depends on how healthy Milwaukee gets. If Milwaukee gets healthy, then I think they can make another run for it. To be quite honest with you, Philadelphia has to clean up their act because
Chicago,
they have too court.
Norm, what do you think of Chicago?
Doing pretty good, I think.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good. Chicago, the Bulls.
Oh, Chicago's going to be there in the running, but I don't think they're going to come out of the East. I think they need a little bit more experience. But I think they're going to be a good team the entire year. It's just like the Knicks. The Knicks will be good the entire year. I think eventually Washington will make the playoffs, but they'll fade. I think the New Jersey Nets, if they stay healthy, and remember, Irving's not there yet.
Yeah, Norman, I was supposed to throw you that question about.
They become a much better team.
Norman, I'm supposed to throw you a problem about the Brooklyn Nets, but you complete your sentence first, and then it's based on the Irving thing, Irving issue.
I was saying that how can teams improve themselves throughout the entire conference, throughout the year? In other words, how can they be better at the end of the year than they are now? Because what you're doing right now is not going to matter what's going to happen in April, May, when we get around that time. Well, if you look at the Nets, they're starting to get their act together without Irving. They have a built-in advantage because eventually if they can solve that problem, he's going to come back. And he's one of the best players in the league. I don't care how many months he's been out. And when he comes back, I'm sure he'll be in shape and he'll be ready to play. It's almost similar to whether the 76ers can solve their problem. You understand what I'm saying? They don't have to go out and recruit somebody for a trade to come in and reinforce their team. They already have Ben Simmons there.
Yeah.
So if they can solve that problem, now you're bringing back an all-star towards the end of the year to help you win a championship. It's the same thing with the New Jersey Nets if Irving comes back. So I think the Nets can come out of the East. But like I said, it all depends on what happens with the health of the Milwaukee Bucks. If the Milwaukee Bucks are healthy, it's going to be hard because Giannis is a horse. I mean, he's for real.
Giannis. Norman, if I may throw a problem in your direction, imagine yourself managing the Brooklyn Nets right now. How would you deal with Kyrie?
I would trade him. What else can you do?
Quite simply put.
Yeah. I mean, very simply, you can't parade or step on his rights as a person not to be vaccinated because that's his right. I won't question that. I will question his dedication to his team, though, particularly to Kevin Durant, who he helped recruit to go to New Jersey. That's my problem. I mean, you helped bring this guy in. You basically recruited him. And now you're not even playing. So how does that go over? I don't know how well that goes over. Of course, in public, on the record, I'm sure Kevin Durant will just say, no, I respect his decision to do whatever he wants to do. But I'm sure off the record, Kevin Durant might be saying, hey, I came here to win a championship with you, not without you. Mm-hmm. Where are you? How come you're not here? So that's a problem. That's a problem they have to work out. That's the problem they have to solve. Obviously, I think Steve Nash has taken a stand already and said, hey, if you're not going to be all in, you're not in at all. It's as simple as that. So how they're going to solve that problem is beyond me. I heard that the Sixers will probably try to make another attempt to bring Ben Simmons into the mix again. How that will work out, we don't know. But these two teams have an advantage because they already have all-stars sitting out who aren't playing, who at any time can come back and reinforce their team. You know, the Phoenix Suns don't have that. The Los Angeles Lakers don't have that. The Utah Jazz don't have that situation. They have to go with what they have right now or make a trade.
You know, Norman,
Golden State still is missing Clay, and they're doing well.
Yeah, Norman, let's go back to
I'm sorry, I apologize. I missed the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, that too.
It's not. I just hope they can stay healthy, because if you look at their games, they are by far playing the best basketball in the league right now.
Yep.
And Lito is being very solid about Golden State.
Of course.
I mean, if I could get
without
my team
Klay
to play
Thompson
like that,
and James Wiseman, they're doing this great already.
10-1. I think it's
and
10-1.
Lito, para sa akin, it's the way they're moving.
Yeah.
The way they move off the ball. The ball movement, the 29, 30 assists every game, the unselfishness. That's the key to winning a championship.
Yeah.
If you can get guys to move off the basketball, and sometimes when I catch it, I don't dribble it right away, but I move it to the next guy, and then I cut to open it up for him to make a penetration. Those type of things aren't talked about very much, but that's what makes championship teams.
And that's beautiful basketball.
Yeah, the fact that the Warriors lead the league in assists almost every year, it shows how unselfish they are as a team. And remember, Stephen Curry has never, ever been in the top as far as assists are concerned in the NBA. Think about it for a second. He's normally around 6, 7. So it's not just him, it's everybody has really bought into that type of system. And if they can stay healthy, as all teams, I guess, Golden State's going to be tough, man. The entire year. Huh?
How about, may I ask Lito and Coach Norman, was bringing in Russell for the Lakers a mistake?
I'll go back one step muna. Look at Washington. They traded Russell. Now they're number 1.
Yes.
That's the irony, di ba? They traded a very good player and they became number 1. Is he a good fit for the Lakers? So far, he has been playing comfortably the way I see it. Although one said he cannot play alongside Rondo. I mean, the two
Rondo.
cannot play together.
Rajon Rondo.
So, but overall, you affect the way he has been contributing. I think he will be a factor for the Lakers. It's going to be more good than bad for me with him going to the Lakers. You, Norman.
I might be the wrong person to talk to because I'm a Russell Westbrook fan.
Norman, let's.
I'm a fan of any player who plays hard every night.
Okay.
I mean, that was me as a player. That's, play hard every night, something good's going to happen. Russell plays hard every night.
Yeah.
The only problem is lately he has not been in rhythm. It seems like he tries to do too much. He's trying too hard. He's making way too many turnovers because of it. But, like I said, even with Washington last year, he did not get off to a great start, guys, huh? But eventually, he was able to fit in, and eventually everybody came around to the way he played. The game became faster, the pace was super quick, and that's to his advantage. Russell Westbrook will never be good in a slow-down game. He has to have a speed game. If it's not a speed game, he's not going to be good because he's too erratic. So I expect his game to pick up. I think he's going to be a positive in the end for the team. I don't think they can trade for anybody and get anybody better, to be quite honest with you. So maybe it's just a matter of them trying to we talk about the Golden State Warriors. One reason why they're so good is because some of those players have been together with them together for so long. Let's not forget Russell Westbrook just joined the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think they only have, 3 or 4 returning players from their team last year? So let's see what happens. I'm not really concerned with whether they're blend as a team. I'm more concerned with their health. That's my problem. Davis is always hurt. LeBron's been out a lot lately. But as far as Russ is concerned, I think eventually it'll work itself out. Even though I do admit right now, he is a turnover just waiting to happen.
Norman, currently the NBA has a lot of follow-up.
Meron lang akong additional. Plus the fact that Russell earns more than LeBron or Anthony Davis.
Davis. Okay.
And LA sacrificed a lot of players just to acquire Russell Westbrook.
Okay. We're at a point in the NBA where, Norman, you mentioned a lot of players already, the players' names, and it goes way beyond a handful. Whereas back in the, say, 80s, there would be a handful of dominant players. And back in the early days of the NBA, there was George Mikan and probably nobody else, and a few others who came along. Would you say that this kind of progress that the NBA has would stretch into the future where you can't really select a good MVP because of the tough competition for everybody?
Well, I think you have a larger variety of good players in the NBA, mainly because of the European players, the foreign players, the African players. It's not, the players aren't just coming from the United States anymore. They're coming from all over the world. And that gives you an influx. It's almost like having a shot of players coming from all over that help strengthen the league as far as talent is concerned. So I think that's why maybe compared to the 60s or the 70s, where mostly all of the players were Americans, now you have all these other players, all this other talent coming in from around the world. That's really helped the NBA become more global. I always look at it this way. No matter whether it's the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the players had their time. I always think, and I still think, that Will Chamberlain can dominate today. And I say that because I grew up in Overbrook, Philadelphia. My school, St. Joe's, is situated in Overbrook, Philadelphia, which is where Will Chamberlain came from, which is where he went to high school. And I remember how dominant he was at that time. And I remember all the stories that were being told about his dominance at that time. So I don't see how he would not be dominant today. If you understand what I'm saying. In other words, I think sometimes people forget that Julius Irving would be just as good today as he was then. We have a tendency, as time goes on, we focus in on the players today as being the greatest players of all time, and you forget about the guys who came before them, who paved the way for them. And I do understand that guys are bigger, stronger. I wish I could have had a personal trainer when I was coming up, like these guys have today. And then they hire these personal trainers, and these guys work them out. They have their strength trainer, they have their skills trainer, they have the nutritionist. I mean, we didn't have any of that when I was coming up. But guys who came up before me and during my time, if they were in today's world, they would have all those advantages. So I love the way the game's being played today. I wish it would be a little bit more physical. I wish it wasn't, I think one of you said soft earlier. I wouldn't call the league soft by any means of the imagination, but I wish they would allow a little bit more physicality. But at the same time, I think the players today are super athletic. And I'll give you an example. If you guys ever watch the NBA highlights that come on NBA TV. They always have to go back in time and show something.
Mm.
They showed this highlight of Dominique Wilkins going baseline. And he goes up and he double pumps and he dunks the basketball on somebody. I'm not sure who the helpless guy was who got dunked on. But he dunks on somebody, and then the commentator goes, "That's the best dunk I've ever seen in my life. You know, that's the best dunk ever in the NBA." And I look at that, and I look at the dunk, and I'm saying, what would that dunk be today? That would be nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a double pump dunk. He dunked on it. That's it.
Yeah.
These guys are flying through the air, bringing it back, behind their shoulders.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which brings us to the question, Norman. Who is the GOAT? Which brings us to the question, who is the GOAT?
The best of all time?
Yes,
Yeah.
greatest of
If you
all
ask me,
time.
I think what ends up happening is it depends on what era you grew up in. For me, it's Michael Jordan. That's an easy one. I won't even, if you want to debate me, we can debate it, but, But remember, I didn't grow up during Wilt Chamberlain's era. Anybody who grew up during Wilt Chamberlain's era might say Wilt Chamberlain. He was the most dominant player at that
Or
time.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Some people might say Kareem Abdul-Jabbar because he leads the NBA in scoring. If you grew up during Kobe Bryant's time, you say Kobe Bryant. And of course, today people would say LeBron James.
No, LeBron said so. That's the difference.
Solito,
He claimed to be.
what's your answer? So it's not
Michael
LeBron.
Jordan.
Okay.
Michael
pareho.
Jordan. You go beyond points. You go beyond skill. I look at it as the overall. Tangible and intangible. Iba yung Michael Jordan. The passion is really up there, and I think the closest to him lang would be Kobe Bryant and Larry Bird. I like Larry Bird. The best accolade for a white player, somebody said, he can go and play in any black neighborhood area and he will be welcome. That's a very big
that's true. He would be,
yeah. Right?
Bob,
So-
you have an answer, Bob?
Alam ko ikaw, Lou Salvador Sr. yan. Something.
Baka hindi kilala ni Norman yun, Hindi, sagutin ko, Bob, bago ikaw. Sige.
Okay, ikaw muna.
Yeah, maybe Michael Jordan is the best player. But the best personality the NBA has produced is LeBron James. Because outside of the playing court, he stands up for something. In national issues, diba? National
So did Bill
issues.
Russell. Ganun din naman siya nun eh.
Yeah, but then ito talaga very outspoken si LeBron, and he has so many charitable projects in his hometown and other places. So I think yun ang biggest difference.
Kaya nga nagkakaiba-iba tayo. We
Iba-iba.
came from different points of view.
Yes,
Diba?
yes,
Yung
background.
greatness, you define it this way, I will define it this way. Right? And there will always be disagreements between basketball fans when it comes to picking who's better than who. Tama nga si Norma they're the best in their generation. Why compare two players from two different generations when the situation was very much
But
different?
then Lito,
But
gusto ng
people will
NBA
always
yun eh.
compare.
The NBA likes that.
Yeah,
That
people will
people
always
talk
compare.
about talking about
Right.
who's the greatest.
Yeah.
That's publicity without
Yep.
them doing anything. Bob,
Yep.
what's your answer?
Maraming panukat eh. There are several measures to find out who is a game changer. So now, I would go literally to who was influential enough to change the game. If you were living in Kareem's era, even in college, they outlawed the dunk because of Kareem. And he learned,
Yeah.
before Kareem, and then he learned how to do that, skyhook, and then make a football pass over to the other side, which is not easy. Was not easy at the time.
Football
And
pass,
then you have,
hindi baseball pass, ha?
he called it the football pass, not the baseball pass. Si Karim nagsabi nun sa UST gym. Sinabi niya yun. Di ba? Alam ko pa. I would say, argument, yes, there's an argument for Michael Jordan, but he was the best at what he was doing. But for me, he did not change the game. He was playing the best at that game. It was Julius Irving who changed the game for me. So there. There's arguments always, all the time.
But di ba si Julius Irving, yung known siya being a high flyer?
Yes.
Well,
He brought the streets to the NBA.
I honestly believe that you said the GOAT. I believe Michael Jordan is the GOAT.
Yeah.
There's no
the
question about
greatest
that in
of
my
all
mind.
time.
But I do agree with you that, because for me, the most influential player of my life was Julius Irving, because I grew up in Philadelphia. I went to college there.
Wow.
At the same time that Julius Irving was playing for the 76ers. They practiced in our gym, so I was able to watch him practice with the Sixers and watch the way he moved. But more importantly, I watched the way he changed the entire NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while, the 76ers were like a walking rock band. When they had George McGinnis and Daryl Dawkins and Lloyd Freed, they were like a walking rock band. Everywhere they went, all their games were sold out. People were meeting them at the airport. Everybody wanted to see Dr. J. That's all they talked about. And I remember this because at this time, the NBA was struggling. They were struggling with drug problems. They were struggling with attendance. And when Dr. J came over from the ABA, he changed everything. And then it led to, and I'll take the next step, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
Magic, yeah.
And that's when the NBA started playing games overseas. They started playing the McDonald games over in Europe. And that's when the game started spreading around the world. It became more of a universal game than just an American game. So I would agree with you that Julius Irving was very influential, and then Larry Bird and Magic Johnson actually carried the torch. But as far as performance that I saw, particularly in championship series, I have to go with Jordan. I would have to
Jordan.
6-0. 6-0 in the finals.
And I witnessed all of that. That was during my time. So
yes.
Aren't we lucky to have witnessed all that? Aren't we all lucky to have seen that? Nakakita natin
the
yung
very
dominance.
best of the best.
Yes, but a lot of the young kids today did not see that. The ones that love LeBron James, they didn't see that.
So
I failed to watch the Jordan games. Normal.
So Ted, ang score, tayong apat, dalawa for Michael Jordan, one for LeBron, one for Julius Irving. Norman, we won.
But no prize.
They get the prize from
MJ. You ask MJ for your premium. But I have one observation. Naiingit ako, I envy the NBA players who are very vocal about national issues, not just politics. Here in the Philippines,
you can't.
I'm sorry. But why not?
There's a product attached to you, Ted.
Yes, you're under contract. The same thing with the stars, with the movie stars, with the television stars. They have contracts.
But it's a good thing too.
They can say their piece. They can say their piece. The only time that the PBA players stood up for something was the one you mentioned when they were against the field shams. They even went to the Department of Justice. I saw them there. But nothing more. Nothing.
Okay, siguro this might shed a little light. You guys know Danny Spiritu.
Yes.
The player agent, he has about 75 to 80 players. His son has about 24. They control maybe 80-90% of the current player. I asked Danny in one interview, just a few years ago, what's the difference between the players of our time, meaning 80s, 90s, and with the current generation as far as being a player agent is concerned? Sabi niya, dito alam mo ang players ngayon, ang number one priority is get me the biggest salary that you can get for me. Which sabi niya, that's a big difference. Unlike before, there was this desire really to play, the passion to play. Ngayon parang talagang hanap buhay siya. I'll go with the highest bidder. So there was a note of disappointment also on the part of Danny because he has been around. He has seen all these players na from here to here, from here to halata mong medyo disappointed din siya. And I think it's true. I don't know, Norman, if you share the same observation and difference between the players now and the players before.
PBA, you're talking about PBA players, Lito.
PBA.
Yes.
And we're not talking about skills. Kasi nag-umpisa tayo dito, sabi niya na NBA players are more active, taking part on national issues.
Taking a stand.
Ito nga, hindi natin maramdaman yan eh. So, what do you think, Norman? Yung current difference between current and past PBA players natin? Attitude-wise.
Well, if I analyze the Morocco team, I will say that they still possess really good work habits. In other words, they get there early, they get their work in and practice. They're not lazy. They're masipag. The way they work, they're there to improve their skills and get better. And that's something that I don't think the older players, the players that I grew up with when I was playing, always got a lot of credit for. People don't realize that Amon Fernandez was probably one of my hardest workers in practice.
Mm-hmm.
He did not have all those different type of shots, the Kili shot and the elegant shot and all those names that he used to go with his shots during those days. That didn't just happen. He worked on those shots every single day in practice. He had good work habits in practice.
Yeah.
Now, what he did off the court, you have to talk to him about that. But on the court, he came to work every day.
Yeah.
Every single day. I think in that sense, and maybe it has something to do with the coach, but in that sense, because some coaches can demand, hey, guys, we got to work hard if you want to improve, if you want to win games. But today's players, I think it's more of a partnership than it used to be when it comes to the coaching and the playing. In other words, the players want to be more involved. They want to know why you're doing certain things. They also want to have a little bit of a say in what you're doing. Unlike in the past, it was more, I won't say it was military-like, where I'm the head general and you're under me and you just have to do whatever I say. Now you have to explain it. You have to explain what you're going to do. It's more of a partnership with your players than it was before, where you just totally dominated everything and just do it. Run through that wall for me. Don't ask me any questions. Just run through the wall. Now you might have to explain why they're running through the wall before they run through. So it become a little bit different in that sense. But I don't really see that much of a difference, to be quite honest with you, in the attitudes of the players. I mean, I won't go into, the private life and political side of things because I don't really deal with that very much. But I mean, as far as them coming to work every day and getting their work done, in a lot of ways, they're even more dedicated than the players before because there's so much more available to them. They have personal trainers. They have a strength trainer. They have a nutritionist. We never did any of that before.
Yep.
Maybe if we did, we would have been much better players.
Last question.
But those things just didn't exist then like they do today. So I think the players today are I think they're cooperative. I think they work hard. I think, yes, you may be right maybe they want the most money they can earn while they can. That may be more of an interest to them than which team they're going to play for. But in fairness to them, basketball life is very short.
Sure. Yeah.
So they should try to earn as much as they can while they can.
Last question
sorry,
to
sir.
Lito and Coach Norman. Why no PBA Players Association now? That's a main difference.
I don't understand. I really don't understand that. Obviously, it's going to take some type of leadership for that to happen.
Yes. It's the lack of somebody
their,
who will take the lead role. I agree with Norman. There has to be a core group. There has to be that single personality that could be able to form that core group and really work for the interest of the group. Right now, wala akong
Lito, mukha bang was it because ganun na nga kasi yung concern ng players? As long as I get my pay at saka I get a good contract, okay na ako?
I guess for some players, yes. Why get involved in something when I'm happy with what I have? Why do I have to fight other people's battles when I have won my own battle? Posible sa iba.
Dito, they're just thinking of now.
Yes.
How about 10, 20 years from now?
You're talking current millennials. Right?
Yes.
This is the way current millennials are. Diba? They don't think of the future. They think of the present. And in the case of what Norman was saying, they want to have more voice. They want to know why. Unlike before, you just tell them do this, and then they simply follow. But that's not just for players. That is the current millennial generation that we're describing. And
pero dito, I would take exception to maybe about 50 to 100 players who would say otherwise na napa-under kay Coach Norman throughout. Kasi iba attitude ng mga yun. Mga dumaan kay Norman as college o kaya clinic players at saka pagdating sa pro. I can maybe think of 50 to 100 players na dumaan kay Norman who would say otherwise. Hindi ako dedicated ako sa laro. Si Coach Norman ang sa akin .
Yeah, sayang
And I'm not robbing you, Norman, for giving you a backup or anything. It's a tribute to you.
Oo, kasi tinuruan ka ni Norman ng basketball sa Burlington Basketball Tips.
Ako yun. Yung anak ko nga sa Selecta Mu Clinic pa . Diba?
Yeah.
Remember that, Norman? My son was in your clinic.
Alam nyo ba, even sons of other personalities nag-enroll din sa mga clinics ni Coach Norman.
Oo. Kikita kami ni Benji dun sa Mu Clinic . Yung anak niya dati nun.
Ay, sayang, 12 noon na. Magluluto pa si Lito.
Well, when I think a little bit about the clinics, because if there's something I really want to get back into, and I think Teddy knows this really well, I'm really busy with the pros right now, but I really want to get back to teaching kids again. I'm starting a program again to teach kids the correct way to play basketball. That's actually the way I started my coaching. I did it with Burlington. I did it with RFM, with the Mu clinics. And when you think about it, Kiefer Ravenna, he attended those clinics. Ray Parks attended those clinics when they were shorties, they were small guys. And that's how you grow them. If you can teach them the fundamentals while they're young, then of course they will grow and get better, and their skills will get better as they get older. But they have to learn the right way when they're young. That's very, very important. So I'm hoping one day to be able to get back into that again. But just
that's the advantage. Norman, that's the advantage of Aaron. He's under you forever.
Si Kristen dati.
Kristen din dati. Yeah, he was right there. Going back to what you were saying earlier, though, the league also has to feel as though it's an advantage for them to accept the Players Association. In other words, the league has to feel, I'm talking about the PBA league now, they have to feel that their growth should be hand in hand with the players' growth for that to work. they also have to be open-minded for there to be a players association. But in the end, it's going to have to start with the players. Somebody from their group is going to have to step up and become the leader. And it's probably going to have to be somebody of some type of stature, because that's normally what happens. People listen to people with stature. In other words, it's going to have to be some of the better players who have a little bit of longevity,
influence,
have a little bit of clout. They're going to have to be able to get this off the ground for it to benefit the players in later years. And it may not benefit the guys who started now, but it'll benefit the guys in the future. But it has to be a hand-in-hand cooperation with the league, with the board of governors, and everybody has to feel as though it's something that'll make the league healthy. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yes,
good point.
In other words, the players,
and I hope
players
somebody
can
picks
start
up
all
from
the
there.
associations they want, but unless they work hand in hand with the board of governors and the individual teams, it's not going to work. And remember, each player can come from a team. In other words, you can have a representative in Morocco, representative in San Miguel, a representative in Magnolia. And that's how you form your group. That's how you can form your group. But it has to be hand in hand together with the league working with the players.
Right now, Norman, you haven't heard of something like that?
Well, there was a group before.
Attempts
Kenneth
to...
Remember Kenneth Dorinda's and Marlo Aquino's time?
Yeah.
They were very active. Even Alan Kai Dick, I believe, was part of that. They were very active for a while. But I think with the current group of players we have right now, they're not as active. I guess the most vocal guy would probably be L.A. Tenorio. He was one of the guys that really stepped up during the pandemic and was working in hand in hand with the league as far as how the players could help. Remember, there was a time where the players took pay cuts.
Yes.
During the pandemic, L.A. Tenorio was one of the guys who stepped up during that time and was very vocal. So it has to be somebody like that. L.A.'s a guy with stature. He's a guy who has been in the league for quite a while now, who's accomplished a lot. So obviously people would listen to him. But somebody's just going to have to step up and show that leadership. And he's going to have to be able to work hand in hand with the governors, be able to make anything work, get anything off the ground.
Okay.
Okay. Kala ko matagalan 2 oras, kulang pa pala no?
Kulang. Bitin.
Okay,
Bob, 7 ano na tayo?
Pero napakaswerte
8 minutes
namin.
overtime.
Napakaswerte, ang daming pwedeng pag-usapan at saka ang daming may alam dun sa pag-uusapan natin from these two gentlemen na bisita natin ngayon. Thank you very much, Manong Lito Cinco. Thank you very much. And of course, Coach Norman Black. It is a pleasure to see you again. And please show up every now and then pagka wherever we get to bump into each other. See you again. Kasama ko rin siya sa panel dati.
Good to see you, Norm.
Been a while.
Long time.
Kailan nga birthday mo? Pupunta kami ni na Norman.
March 20 tsaka March 21.
Okay.
Dalawang
Sabi ng nanay ko, March 20. Sabi nung birth certificate ko, March 21.
2 days.
So I celebrate twice a year.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot. It was fun to do this kind of thing.
Thank you. I hope to see you again, Sir Lito.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invite, guys. Thank you.
And thank you, Norman. Thank you.
Salamat.
More power.
Salamat.
And happy birthday. Happy birthday sa'yo ngayon.
Yesterday. Yesterday, kahapon.
Baka may natira pang handa, pupunta kami dyan ngayon.
Pwedeng ilalamove.
Ingat, take care.
Okay, see you guys.
Thanks. Take care. All right.
So Ted, ayan na.
Thank you sa ating mga kaboomers.
Bisita natin. Thank you.
Staying more than 2 hours. Kasi
very
insightful.
Almond nga pala kanina. Si Almond.
Tsaka si Katotong George.
Na hawak na yata niya yung address, no? Pinadala mo na sa kanya. Okay.
Thank you kina Ryan De La Cruz, kina Dinky Magno, kina Nenet. Salamat sa inyong lahat.
si Basal Afwang na ang daming
Oo.
binigay na information sa atin throughout. Si Aloha Inovero na binigay yung impressions niya na manginginom din daw siya ng San Miguel. Favorite niya si Samboy Lim. Ted,
Yeah.
very fruitful at saka marami pang pwede pag-usapan. Actually, gusto ko pang balikan yung panahon nung yung NBA nagkaroon ng social impact. Like nung lumabas sila Bill Russell about the Black Protests movement nung panahon na yung 60s. Pero syempre masyado nang malawak eh. At saka baka humaba yung kwentuhan. Sarap kakwentuhan nila Coach Norman tsaka si Manong Lito tsaka si Almond syempre. Sama natin kanina. Last word, Ted?
Yeah, on Monday at Oaks, we will have Arnel Pasiano Casanova, dating BCDA chairman at saka assistant campaign manager ng Team Lenny senatorial lineup.
Okay, so abangan niyo po yan. Oaks sa WBL Monday
Yes.
alas 4 ng hapon. At mapapanood nyo rin sa YouTube afterwards.
At
Ito
saka
naman
yung
po, Boomers.
voice over doon si Baba.
Oh yeah. Oh. Voiceover, napag-usapan ng voiceover, ASAP bukas, alas 12. Okay, ang Boomers Banquet can be found on YouTube. Lahat po ng episodes namin nandun. Tsaka yung audio version in case you are just closing your eyes and listening sa aming mga pangit na tinig ni Teddy at saka ni George. Nandiyan po yan sa Spotify at saka yung mga related playlists. Ted, may hawa ka dyan? Bola ba yan?
Wala,
Padadala
inaayos
mo
ko
sa
lang
akin.
yung bola na hindi tatak Wilson kaya ayoko ipakita na.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on behalf of George Boone. We'll see you again next week for another episode of Boomers Banquet. Until then, ingat po. Ad Maiorem, Dei Gloria.